We're two sisters who believe that the purpose of life is to enjoy, create, and have fun. We believe that as humans, we can have anything we want, and things are always working out for us. Experience has taught us that the path to getting everything we want begins with ease. If you believe in miracles and happily ever after, or even if you just want to, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, I'm your host, Kayla Rain.
And I'm Adria Shea.
And we're sisters, and we are excited to have you join us as we discuss the law of attraction. Adria, it's so good to see you. I know
it's good to see you.
I know it's only been a week, but time just feels like it drags on. I can't wait from week to week to record another episode. Last week, Adria, we talked about gratitude. And one of the things that we discussed was not just talking about what you're grateful for or thinking about what you're grateful for, but also thinking about why you're grateful for those things. So I think a good place to start today would be with our gratitude. So tell me 3 things you're thankful for and also tell me why.
All right. I was thinking just the other day when I was driving home, I am so grateful to live so close to these gorgeous mountains. I mean, where I live is like almost 360-degree view of amazing mountains. It just makes my heart happy every time I look at it. And I think how lucky I am to have that view. So that's why I love it. And
I miss that view, to be honest. So you are lucky.
I am lucky. I feel very lucky. I'm grateful for pumpkin ice cream because it's like the best thing in the world.
You can't
it also
even
makes my heart happy.
You can't even eat ice cream.
I shouldn't eat ice cream, but every once in a while.
You can have whatever you like.
So I'm grateful for Lactaid plus pumpkin ice cream.
That's perfect. Anything else you want to throw in? You did give me 3.
I'm grateful for good friends as well.
Awesome. Well, you stole one of mine because friendship was one of the top things that came to mind for me today, because last night we went on a triple dinner date with 2 other couples, and it was so much fun. And I just really kept thinking, I am so grateful to have friends. That's new for us because we're new here. And I just really appreciate having people to spend good times with and make memories with. I am also grateful for 4 seasons. Having moved here from Arizona, holy cow, it feels so amazing to actually feel like there's fall and then winter. And it's starting to change here. We just had a crazy rainstorm yesterday, and a lot of people were complaining, and I was loving it because I'm like, oh, cozy sweaters and warm nights at home and snuggles. And so I am super grateful to have 4 seasons. And number 3 for me, I am just grateful to have a peaceful home. I do not have a green thumb by any means, but I've been trying to get my plants to grow, and they're finally thriving. And I keep thinking to myself, oh, it's because my house feels so good. I have such a good environment, and then the plants just add to it. So it's really nice to come home every night and feel like, oh, it's nice and cozy.
I love that.
So, yay. I love the gratitude, and I love, like we talked about on our last episode, I love really getting into why you're grateful for things. I feel like that's so important and powerful in drawing more of those good things to you.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Adria, one thing that I want to do on future episodes is to have a section of our podcast where we talk about listener questions or answer listener questions. I assume once our podcast releases that we'll start having questions come in. And folks, we do encourage that. You can go to our website, www.attractitwithease.com, and you can send us questions, comments, stories, anything that you'd like us to discuss, and we'll make time to address that on our podcast. But since we're brand new and we haven't even released this yet as of the time of recording, Adria, we don't have any questions from our listeners, but you asked me a question in the past year that I think would be a great jumping off point for our conversation today. Do you know what question I'm referring to?
Since we're talking about getting what you want, I'm guessing that you're referring to back when I asked you, how do you visualize what you want if you don't know? Like, what if you don't even know where to start?
Okay. Yeah. How do you like get clear with what you want, I guess is kind of what you're
Yes.
asking.
Yes.
Okay. That's perfect. And you're right. That is the question I was referring to. So sometimes in life, we know that we want something more or better than what we have, and we don't even really know what that is. So, Adria, today I'm going to take you through an exercise. I'm totally going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to ask you some questions. And hopefully, from this little exercise, our listeners will be able to get some thoughts and ideas on how they can determine what it is that they really want also. So here we go. Ready?
Yeah, ready.
Okay. So for starters, now, first of all, disclaimer, none of us, nobody, not you, not me, nobody has a truly perfect life, right? But I want to know if you thought you had a perfect life, if your life was absolutely perfect, what are the things that you would require? What would your life look like in order for you to be able to describe it as perfect?
I would like a companion to spend my life with, someone that inspires me and challenges me and adores me, and that I have like insane chemistry with.
Did you hear that, folks? She's single.
That's just one thing, though. My list doesn't end there.
You just turned your cap light on. We asked listeners to send in their questions. We know what they're going to be about now.
I'm so embarrassed right now.
I'm just joking. But no, I think that's important. I think all of us want, like we talked about just a minute ago, friendship, companionship. We want people to spend our lives with, and how wonderful to have somebody that cares about you as much as you care about them. So I'm going to dig a little bit further. I love that answer. Thank you for being so honest with us. But let's go into some other areas. If you had a so-called perfect life, where would you live?
I want to live in a place that has lots of views of nature, but is close enough to a city that I can get my culture fix. I can go watch a play or to a concert or visit a nice bookstore. So not super rural.
Okay. And give me an idea of what your house is like.
Swedish Oh, that's really specific. Swedish architecture. I love. It doesn't have to be in Sweden, but I love big windows, lots of natural light, whites and neutrals, and furnished with things from nature.
Love
wool,
it.
Leather.
Love it. Okay, I'm starting to put this together. Okay, if you had a perfect life, what do you do for work?
For work, I want to also do something that challenges and inspires me, something that I feel is important and makes a difference in the lives of others, and rewards me financially to the extent that I can pursue my dreams.
Okay. And when it comes to work, what does your schedule look like?
Pretty flexible. I would probably want to work, pretty close to like 4 days a week, 5 to 8 hours a day. I don't mind doing some stuff nights and weekends as long as I'm not tied to my job. So pretty flexible. I'd like to be able to define my own hours, I guess.
Okay. And it sounds like maybe not even totally full time. You'd be happy with part time as long as it brought in the money you needed or wanted, right?
That's right. Because I need time to pursue my other dreams, my other hobbies.
Right. Okay, good. We'll get into that in a second. So since we're talking about money, in your perfect life, what does your bank account look like? If it was perfect.
If it's perfect, I have enough money in the bank that as long as I am making smart choices, I don't have to look at my bank account. I don't have to wonder what's in my bank account because I know it's adequate for my standard of living.
Wow.
Do I have to put a number on it?
No, you don't have to put a number on it.
Because I don't know what that number is.
You just set the bar so low. You were like, if I if I'm
Dang
careful
it.
with my choices, that doesn't sound like a perfect life. A perfect life, you don't even have to think about it, right? If you have just enough money that you can just buy whatever, whenever, that's to me a perfect life. If I have to like be conscious of my choices, then that
I don't
sounds.
know. I think if I could buy anything I wanted, I would buy far more than a person ought to buy. So I want to exercise some restraint.
Well, I'm glad that you acknowledge that. But okay, so we can agree to disagree on that one. I feel differently about my bank account in my perfect life. Okay. How do you spend your free time in your perfect life?
I definitely want to travel, want to read. I want to be adventurous. I want to do things that stimulate me physically and intellectually. So, there are things I'm interested in, but anything that ticks those boxes is
Okay.
great. I want to have time for naps, definitely, but be so energized that I don't require naps.
Okay. Well, you are moving into my next question, which is how does your body look and feel in your perfect life?
Amazing. My body is strong enough and flexible enough that I can do anything I want to do, whether that's, hike or run or swim or take up a new sport. And so I would say lean, strong, healthy. I want to look in the mirror and think, dang, I look good.
You should. You should start saying that now.
I do. I say that every time I look in the mirror.
I love it. I love it. I wish I had a mirror to reflect back at you right now. Okay, awesome. Let's think of some other categories. How about your involvement in your community? As far as a perfect life, would it be important to you to give back or do any type of donations? And I'm not implying that that needs to be part of your perfect life, but is that something that's important to you?
Yes, definitely. Service is important. And so I think that depending on my job, that I may, if my job is contributing to making the world a better place somehow, then that might be adequate. But I like doing things, whether it's donating financially or giving my time. So I would like to include that, yes, in my perfect life.
Okay. And we kind of started with a relationship, but let's talk about other relationships. What kinds of people surround you in your perfect life?
I don't necessarily want, well, that's a limiting statement, huh?
It is. Nice catch. I love it.
I'm getting a little bit better at this. I want to have friends that I can connect with, friends that get me and that I trust and that lift me up and help me to be a better person. And so the number of friends to me is not nearly as important as how I feel when I'm with them.
I like that. Well, since this is your perfect life, you have them. So you don't need to
Yes.
want them. You have them in your perfect life. Okay,
Yes.
let's talk about
Oh, I'm
car.
excited for my perfect life.
It feels good to talk about these things, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about your vehicle. What kind of car or truck or plane or whatever? What do you drive or what gets you around in your perfect life? What do you have?
Why don't you tell me about your perfect mode of transportation?
Flip it around. I like it. I like it. Um, I actually love my current vehicle. It's something that I just manifested last year. I had been working on, I really, really, really wanted a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I used to own one years ago and I missed it. And moving to the Tahoe area, I knew I wanted and probably would need something with 4-wheel drive. So I was already looking at essentially an SUV. And I thought, oh, I really want a Jeep Grand Cherokee. And so that was something that I have worked on for probably about a year. And I say worked on, we can talk about working on in another episode, but something I was focused on manifesting and attracting. And just last December, I purchased and paid in full, paid cash
Nice.
for my Jeep Grand Cherokee. It was used. It wasn't brand new, but I did pay cash for it, and it felt so good. And Adria, you just saw it when you were out here. And what did you say about my Jeep when I pulled up to pick you up at the airport?
I think I said something along the lines of I had no idea that your car was this nice.
Exactly.
It's much different than I pictured it. I can see why you love it. It's a great car.
I do love it. And in my perfect life, I probably would have a brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee instead of a used one. There are a lot of other cars and vehicles that I love. I tell you that I would love to have all kinds of toys in my perfect life. I would love to have a jet ski. And well, in my perfect life, I do have a jet ski. And I have a helicopter to get me around from, my place to your place.
Just love it.
There
Only needs to manifest that then.
Right? Put it on the list. But yeah, honestly, if life was perfect, and like we said, nobody really has a perfect life. And a lot of what we've been talking about are material things, but some of what we've talked about is actually feeling. How do we feel in our body in our perfect life? We talked about involvement in our community. One thing we didn't really talk about is kind of identifying where we want to be spiritually, whether it's relationship with God or the universe, or just feeling connected to the earth and nature. Everyone's religious beliefs and that are different, but sometimes we just feel like something's missing and we need a little bit more spirituality in our lives. Maybe that piece is already perfect for us. But there's all different areas and aspects where we can kind of sit down and pick things out. And some of what we want, like I said, the Jeep Grand Cherokee, we might already have. Maybe that piece of our life is perfect or perfect for right now. Maybe the relationship that you're in, and not you, but my relationship feels pretty perfect right now. So there may be pieces that it's like, no, I just wanted everything to stay the same. It's pretty good, don't mess with it. Right. But then there's obviously other pieces of our life where we just go, you know what, there's got to be more than this. And that's one of the things that we kind of talked about in starting this podcast, is just helping other people see that we don't have to be on the hamster wheel that most of the world just seems to be on. Just because our parents did things one way, or everybody around us does things one way, or just because people have expectations of us, or just because we've worked the same job for 10 or 20 years, or we just feel stuck, doesn't mean that we have to stay there. We should always be striving for better and more. And at the end of the day, we really believe that we're here on this planet to be happy, and we have the ability to make ourselves happy. The only thing standing in our way is ourselves. So we've now gone through this kind of exercise of how do you know what you want? Well, if you didn't know before this, I think you probably have some clarity on some of the things that you want. Now, some of the things that you said were a little bit vague in the sense that you told me some attributes about where you want to live, but you didn't tell me specifically where you want to live. And that's okay. But the more clear that you can get with certain things, I think the easier it is to kind of visualize being there. But I think you had a question for me, Adria, about kind of where we were going with all of this.
So, as you know, this is something I've kind of been thinking about a lot lately. The last few months is what direction I want my life to take. And so my question is, what if you know that you want something completely different than what you have, but you don't know exactly what you want?
Okay, that's right.
You don't have a clear idea of what you want instead.
Okay, that's a great question. And I'm sure there's listeners out there thinking that, because you just rattled off answers to my questions pretty easily. But sometimes if you haven't really sat down and thought about it, it might be challenging to kind of be so specific or even know. So let's use the example of a job. Let's say that, and this is just made up scenario, but let's say that you are in a job that you don't really enjoy, and you know you want to do something different, but you don't really know at all what you want to do instead. Let's say that
Right.
that's your
Yeah.
situation. And so if someone said like, hey, in your perfect world, what does your job look like? Instead of saying something like, oh, I'd like to be an interior designer, or I would like to be a fireman, or
Mhm.
whatever your answer might be, it's kind of like, well, I know I don't want to do this, but I don't really know.
Yeah,
And that's kind of the
exactly.
question you're asking, correct?
Yeah.
So here's my thoughts on that. First of all, it's okay to not be super specific and not know all the details with what you want. But most of us actually know some of the details. And what I mean by that is we really know how we want to feel. And at the end of the day, we want to feel good. We want to feel happy. So when you're thinking about a new career or a new job, if you start thinking about questions like I asked you, what does my schedule look like? Okay, I don't know
Yeah.
what I want to do, but what hours do I want to work? And maybe the answer is I want a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job. I really just want my nights and weekends to myself.
Mhm.
Someone who's been working retail is probably like, yes, yes, please just give me a schedule like that. That's what I want. So maybe that's a detail that Maybe you know what? I want to work part time. I want part time hours with full time pay. Maybe that's what you're looking
Yeah.
for. I just want more time for something else. I don't care what I do. I just want to make a lot of money in a few hours each week. That might be the detail. So it's kind of just identifying what would make you feel good. Is it the type of work? Do you want to working in a service industry? Would that make you feel good? Something where you could really give back and help other people? Is it something where you want to be able to work for yourself and you think, I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to work for anybody else. I don't want to
Mhm.
answer to anybody anymore. It's okay to not have complete clarity. If you start with just the details that you do know, focus on that, put your emphasis, energy, thoughts on that. And we'll get into details on how to do that in future episodes. But it's just kind of putting it out there. I want to feel good. I want a job I love. I want a job I enjoy. I want a schedule that's XYZ. I want to make this kind of money. I want this type of flexibility, and put out there the details that you do know. And here's the good news. If you're not crazy specific about something, if you mostly focus on the feeling, you then open up all the options that God or the universe or source or whatever you believe in has to bring you as an option. For example, going back to my Jeep Grand Cherokee, I always pictured it as gray. I wanted like a charcoal gray Jeep Grand Cherokee, but I wasn't sold on it, set on it. I was open to others. But if I had been
Mhm.
so specific that it had to be gray, I would not have the Jeep that I have today because my Jeep is white. That doesn't really matter, but it's kind of like the more specific that you get with your requests. So if I said, I want to change careers and I want to be an interior designer working for this company, working part time, making this amount of money, I then close off all the other options that the universe could bring me as being an interior designer for anyone else,
Yeah.
or with any other schedule. Or it's just kind of like the more specific you get, you now start filtering your options to where it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the one thing to be aware of is the smaller the pool is, the longer it likely can take to manifest, because God or the universe or source is you're eliminating so many options, and it's narrowing it down to such a fine line that so many specific details with specific people, specific places, specific instances have to fall in place, that it becomes harder. And I don't mean to say that manifesting is hard. It just tends to take longer for all of that to fall into place versus if you just put it out there, hey, I don't want to do my current job and I want to be an interior designer. Well, there's a lot of interior
Yeah.
design jobs out there. Same with cars. I want to drive a Maserati. Okay. Well, you can drive a Maserati, but If you said, I want to drive a sports car, there's a lot more sports cars than Maseratis. If I said, I want to drive a brand new red Maserati, now I've eliminated all the other Maseratis, right?
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
it's not necessarily a bad thing to not know all the details of what you want, but it is important to start identifying what are the feelings you want to feel. What do you want your life to look like? And a lot of the times, what you really want isn't necessarily a specific job. It's how you want to feel when you're not at your job. You don't want to have to take your work home with you. You want to have time for other things. You want to have the finances for other things. And maybe the job is important, maybe it's not. But it's really, like I said, getting clear with what would make you most happy, what will make you feel most at peace, what will allow you freedom to experience all the goodness that life has. So does that kind of answer that question for you?
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. I think about when I'm shopping for something online and you can click filters, of what color or what price range or what brand. And sometimes I click too many and then there's like 3 things on the page. So I go back and I untick a few and then I have 15 items to choose from.
Yes, it's totally that way. Shoe shopping online.
Yes.
It's just like that. I don't know why, but that reminds me, years ago, I was working in a clothing store and I got a phone call from a client who said, I want to know how much your black dress is. And I said, what black dress are you referring to? She goes, well, I don't know. I just need a black dress. How much are they?
Oh.
And I was just like, I don't really know how to answer that question because we have so many different black dresses. And so what this reminds me of is that's like when you put something out to the universe and you're not clear with what you want. And you're like, well, just bring me, if you say, bring me a black dress, the universe can bring you a black dress, but it might not be the black dress that you want. Right.
That's right.
So it is getting very specific. And I think the listeners probably hopefully have a better idea of how to get specific, how to get clear, how to get a vision of what you want. And so that leads us into our assignment or our action item from this episode. Yay! So we have in our workbook for you a page for this episode, but your action item from this episode is to get clear with what you want. And the way that we're going to have you do that is to write out the details of your perfect life. So we'll have some questions for you on the worksheet that will help jumpstart your thoughts. But we encourage you to take some time and really imagine if life was perfect, what does it look like? And so that's your action item for this week.
It's going to be really episode. Fun. I had fun answering your questions, so I think our listeners are going to have fun doing that.
Well, I'm anxious to see what other things you come up with, categories we didn't hit on, because there's so many more details. What does your wardrobe look like in your perfect life?
Oh, yes.
Right. Okay. Well, Adria, I just want to remind our listeners that the first 10 episodes that we have, we're releasing all of them at the same time. All 10 episodes are being released once we go live. And those are our Jumpstart module. And we put together that Jumpstart module to kickstart our listeners' ability to manifest the things that they desire. And so we encourage you to download and subscribe and start with those first 10 episodes and then go to our website, www.attractitwithease.com. And you can download your free workbook that goes along with the first 10 episodes so that you can, like I said, kickstart your manifestations.
Yes, and I also wanted to remind everybody, in addition to downloading and subscribing, we want you to please leave us a review. We're going to do a drawing every single week. We're having a giveaway all year long. So every single week, we will draw a name of someone who's submitted a review of our podcast, and that person will win a bracelet with their theme word of the year.
I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited. Well, thank you, Adria. I'm excited, and I can't wait for episode 4. But until then, have a great week.
Thanks. You too. I will talk to you later.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.